So reptiles have been my favorite thing since I was like 11, 12. My best friend in middle school had a corn snake, and she just got me really hooked, obsessed. Wanted my own reptile so bad. Finally got my first leopard gecko like a month before I turned 13. And I've been in love with reptiles since. And the state of care in the reptile community is just fucking crazy. Like the care standards for the animals we are keeping. And I know this is a commonly discussed subject. Like most people, I would say, probably agree that reptile care is poor to some degree, or there's a lot of misconceptions or whatever. But like when you look back on it, it's truly fucking crazy because like I was a kid. I did not neglect my animals whatsoever. Like, I was not the type to just not feed them. I was obsessed with my animals. I got most of my reptiles before I was 16. I currently have 4. And, like, I wasn't the type to neglect them, but, like, my tanks were a bit small. You know, I had everyone in 20 gallons or 30 gallons, which is way too small. For reference, that was a ball python, leopard gecko, milk snake, and what was another? Day gecko. Sorry, he passed a few years ago, quite a while ago at this point, so I kind of forget about him sometimes. Sorry, egg yolk, but yeah, I had pretty small tank sizes. I kept their temperatures right, kept their humidity right, gave them a lot of attention, fed them right, whatever, but their tanks were small. But like now that I'm older, I've been upgrading their tanks. Everyone's in 4x2x2s now, or bigger. My blue tongue skink is in a 5x2x2. It's just fucking absurd to look back on. Okay, guys, why were we putting a creature? Leopard geckos are like this long. Why were we putting an animal this long in a tank that's this big? That's only 3 times their size. Like it's like and like the care standards have greatly changed in the last few years. I kind of had that shock because, you know, when I first got my animals, I researched them everything, and then I kind of just got into habits with how I took care of them. You know, I was like, oh well, I know their temperatures, I know what humidity they need, I know blah blah blah, and I didn't really update my care until the last like 2 or 3 years when I started going, oh shit, like you guys need bigger tanks. I need to put you on different feeding schedules, whatever, blah blah blah. But like in hindsight, a lot of this shit is ridiculous. Okay, like why was UVB not a standard until maybe like the last like 2 or 3 years? Like when I first got into reptiles, the only animals anyone ever suggested getting UVB lights for were like the high sun ones. You know, if it was in the desert, like a bearded dragon, leopard gecko, whatever. Anything else, fucking Wild West. And even with those desert animals, like there was no guarantee. Like no one would get mad at you if you didn't have UVB. No one would say anything. They'd be like, the way people phrase it, they'd be like, I mean, you can get UVB if you just want a little bit of protection from like calcium deficiency, vitamin D deficiency. Like no bitch, they need it. They need it. Every fucking thing lives under the sun. We as humans need UVB light from the sun. UVB helps us process vitamins, especially vitamin D, which then allows us to do other things in our bodies. Every fucking animal lives under the sun, okay? Unless it's like literally nocturnal, lives under the ground all day, and needs a little bit of sun. Everything needs UVB. Why was UVB not standard until the last few years? Why was UVB seen as completely optional and unnecessary when I first got into reptiles 8 years ago? Like that's just fucking crazy to think back on. I mean, tank sizes are obvious. Like everyone was always keeping them in undersized tanks, but it really makes me wonder like what the standards will be in the next few years, because like some things have been stable. I think leopard geckos have been suggested to get 40 gallons for the last like 5 or 6 years, and they've stayed there. Like I don't think anyone's recommending like a bigger minimum for leopard geckos, but like blue tongue skinks, I honestly think the 4x2x2 minimum that people suggest is too small. Like, I cannot imagine my skink having a foot less of space in her tank. Like, I don't know. It's not that bad. It's not the worst. I'm glad people have them in 4x2x2s. I'm not judging people who have them in 4x2x2s. But, like, I imagine in the future we're going to see a jump and they're suddenly going to be a 5x2x2 standard for blue tongue skinks. If you didn't know, a blue tongue skink is almost 2 feet long. Why are they in a tank where they're half the length of it? I don't know. But then let's get to like the inside of the tank, okay? Back in my day, paper towel was seen as like a legitimate substrate. No one had a problem with paper towel. People would keep their animals on paper towel for their whole life. And, like, obviously, paper towel is a useful substrate if your animal gets sick. If you just got them and you're quarantining them and you're, like, keeping an eye on if they're pooping right, if they're eating, if they're shedding, bleeding, whatever. Like, it's good. Like, paper towel's not useless. But why did anyone ever think that that was a replacement for fucking putting their little paws in the soil, in the sand, in the rocks, in the bark, whatever they have, in the leaves on the goddamn ground? Why didn't anyone ever think that? I have all of my animals on substrate and they all love it. Like, my milk snake, he has like 6 inches of soil and he is constantly burrowing. It's really fun because sometimes he burrows up against the glass and I can see his little burrow and I see him there. My Euromastix, she loves to dig. My ball python, I don't see him dig that much, but whenever I change his substrate, he always digs his nose around in it a lot. So I think he's like, getting a feel of it. Blue tongue skink loves to dig. Everyone loves to fucking dig, okay? They're on the ground all the time. Like, most reptiles that are kept in captivity are, what is it called? Terrestrial. They're not arboreal, they're not aquatic, they're terrestrial. They live on the ground, they want to feel some dirt under their feet, okay? I just don't get it. Like, and not to diss on Japan, but what the fuck is going on with Japanese reptile keepers? For real. Like, I cannot explain to you, like, not every Japanese reptile keeper is horrible, obviously, but they have some other sort of care standard going on over there. I never see Americans with the type of tanks I'm seeing the Japanese with. They have them on, like, paper towel. There's this person I saw on Instagram the other day who, no joke, had their leopard gecko in a tank that was, like, this big. Like, it was literally not even 2 times longer than the length of the leopard gecko. I thought maybe this is a play tank. Maybe they put it in there when they're cleaning their real tank. Whatever. No, that was their tank. I never, like, at least in America, you're getting a 10-gallon. Okay, this is not to be patriotic. I don't think that American reptile care is fucking great either. You know what? I posted on Facebook the other day asking about if it would be safe to cover a UVB light strip partially, just because, like, the UVB from my Euromastix, which is a high desert species from the Sahara, was bothering my ball python whose tank was next to it. So I was just asking, like, has anyone ever covered up a UVB strip? Does it get too hot? Is there a safe way to do it? Whatever. Some bitch comments on my post and she says, I don't even keep my reptiles with lights anymore. I just put them in a mesh bag with tubes and they love it. Hello? What are you talking about? Yeah, but I just can't believe it, some of the things I see, especially because there's a lot more, like, studies done now. Like, there's a lot of studies that you can look at. Something that people do now that I never saw anyone do when I first got into reptiles, they look up the fucking temperature and humidity of the place that they live at natively. Who would have thought of that? Not the reptile community, apparently, but like ball pythons. Ball pythons, they used to say, you got to keep your ball python at 40 to 60% humidity. Any lower than that, any higher than that, they're going to get a respiratory infection. You look at Ghana, look at any place in Ghana where the ball pythons live, 80% humidity, 90% humidity, 100% humidity. Why were we ever saying ball pythons should live at 40% humidity? What is going on? And then these misconceptions, these very common misconceptions in care, lead to emphasizing issues such as impaction. Why are you... Can we listen to ourselves for a second? This animal that lives in the sand, in the desert, it actually can't eat off of sand. It'll get sick, its body can't process the sand, can't digest it. Do you hear yourself? Impaction in lizards has been proven to just be a direct result of poor husbandry. Husbandry, by the way, if you're not into reptiles and you're just here for fun, husbandry is the overall umbrella term for, like, how you care for your reptiles, their temperatures, humidity, what you offer them, whatever. Lizards with poor husbandry are more likely to get impacted because their body probably doesn't have the nutrients it needs otherwise. Like, it's not hydrated enough, they don't have enough calcium, they don't have enough vitamins, whatever, to process the little bits of substrate they get in their food. It is totally okay to keep your lizards on substrate. We've learned that now. If your animal gets impacted, there's something wrong with your care. I mean, you can also get impactions from swallowing things that you shouldn't swallow. Like, it's not only from substrate, but for the most part, impaction is a cause from swallowing a substrate and the body not being able to digest it. And so stuff like that makes beginner owners scared to put their animal on substrate. scared to put their animal on the fucking the ground that it lives in the wild. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm just so glad that American reptile tanks, at least people try to be realistic now. Like, I very rarely see a tank that has like some bullshit in it, you know, like some random plastic thing. Obviously, like, a lot of reptile stuff is made of plastic. Like, it's okay to have a plastic hide or like fake plants or whatever, but I'm talking about they have some bright colored thing in there that would never, doesn't even resemble something in the wild. Like, I'm glad that we're at least in the direction of more realistic tanks. I'm glad for that. Very thankful. The next thing I need to catch on is maybe like more wide introduction of like springtails and isopods, because it's so easy for most reptiles, ones that are in like a mid-range humidity or a high-range humidity. You basically just can't do it with desert species easily. But any reptile that needs humidity from like 40% onwards, you can have an effective isopod and springtail system that eats all their poop, that eats any mold that arises in the substrate because of the high humidity, whatever. Like, it's so easy to do, like so ridiculously easy to do. All you need is get those bugs, have the right humidity, which is easy if you're keeping your reptiles right, and get them some leaf litter. Get them some little things to hide on, so if it's like a lizard, the lizard doesn't eat all of them all the time, whatever. Do that. Cleaning system. Free. I see some people get really radical with it, and they're like, I think that we should put live plants in every tank. I think everyone should be bioactive. If you're not bioactive, you're not treating your animals right. I don't really agree with that, just because, like, it can be really difficult to keep certain plants alive, especially because you're keeping them in a confined place with an animal. Like, if I were to put live plants in with my blue-tongued skink or my ball python, they'd fucking destroy those. They're so fucking fat. Those animals are so fat, did you know? And they would trample everything instantly. It would be dead. My blue-tongued skink would probably start eating it. I understand. I don't think that everyone needs to have live plants in all their tanks. At least with the tank standards that we have now, or we've had the last few years. Like, I'm still not convinced, like I said with the blue-tongued skinks, that we have as good of, like, size standards as we should. But anyways, it's just fucking crazy, because like I said, I started keeping reptiles when I was a teenager. I followed the care standards. I even went above and beyond. Like, for a while I had my ball python in a 55-gallon. Guess what they need now? Guess what they need? 120 gallons. That's the 4x2x2 that I keep mentioning. He was not in a 4x2x2 or a 120 gallon, I'll tell you that. I finally upgraded him. He fucking loves it. But anyways, like, I don't know. It's just crazy looking back on things. And even now, I've been watching a lot of, like, don't tell anyone, I've been on Instagram Reels a lot, because I used to be a big Twitter user, but I can't stand Twitter anymore, so I went to, like, Instagram Reels, which to me is, like, the opposite of Twitter. Like, Twitter makes you feel evil, and, like, you just want to keep being evil, and that's what sucks you in. But Instagram is, like, it just shows you really cool, awesome things, and then you feel so good, and then it sucks you in. They both suck you in, but in a different way. Anyways, I've been on Instagram Reels watching so many reptile videos, and a lot of them exhibit really cool behaviors, like proof that reptiles bond with their owners, reptiles seeking out, like, pets and cuddling and, like, wanting to be around their owners, people training their reptiles, whatever, all this really cool stuff. And, like, that's just, like, no one even treated reptiles like that before this. Let me tell you, because even when I wasn't as active in, like, the reptile care standards, you know, I wasn't looking up what size tank I should have or temperatures or whatever, because I thought I knew. But I would still watch a lot of reptile videos, still look at a lot of pictures, whatever. And I swear to God, no one was fucking treating them like animals that had complex, maybe emotions is not the right word, but like motivations or understanding of what's going on. No one was doing that until so recently. It's like fucking ridiculous. And now you have all these people going, wow, I didn't think reptiles could actually, like, know things, like, feel things, like, trust their owner, want to be around their owner, have a good time doing more things than just sit in their, like, 2-foot tank. I didn't know that. And it's like, I'm so glad we're all learning this now. But why did it take so long? I'm so fucking confused. Like, reptile keeping as a hobby, I don't know the history exactly, because I was born in the mid-2000s. 2006ers represent. I wasn't around before that, but I've heard that like beardies were really big in the 80s and like corn snakes in the 90s, and then ball pythons started getting introduced in like the 2000s, and then their breeding really took off in the 2010s. I was there for the 2010s part. But like all of this time that the reptile hobby has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, why were the care standards not expanding? Why are we just now like not humanizing our reptiles, but let's say we're acknowledging their full potential, their full intelligence. Like reptiles can be so smart. You can train any reptile. Like you can do the shit where like you tap on their tank a certain amount of times every time you feed them. Any reptile will be able to learn that. Any reptile will be able to learn that repetition. It makes you wonder what more they can learn. Lately I've been seeing people target training their animals, especially large lizards and tortoises. They basically, you take a little thing, put a little, you could just use a pen to be honest, but basically, take your reptile and you point this at them, and then you move it, and then they follow it, and then you give them a treat, and then you move it again, and then they follow it. And it's so cool because you can do things like take the weight of your animal without having to force them out of their tank. Like they get to choose. That's another thing. Choice handling. People let the reptile choose if it wants to come out of the tank, and instead of just forcing it up, picking it out. I've always practiced a bit of choice handling, especially with my ball python, because he's always liked to come out of the tank and explore and whatever. But it's like all of these things are becoming more and more common, and I'm so glad they are. And like I'm not going to act like I was a perfect keeper before, especially because I was a child, I was a teenager, I didn't have money. I have a lot of money now. I've been spoiling those bitches, let me tell you. I've got all of them tank upgrades, so much new stuff in their tanks, like lots of fake plants, big ass water dishes. I'm having a good time with my reptiles now that I have money. But I'm not gonna act like I was perfect, but like at least I was like following the standards when I was like 13, 14, 15. Because some of you guys weren't even doing that. Why are you putting these animals in 10-gallon tanks? But this video could go on forever. I love reptiles. I am glad their care standards are expanding. Still don't think it's enough, and also I'm still confused why it's so late. But yeah, I'm gonna cut this off here.